Get out.
Oh, goodness. What a wild show today. Out of bounds, out of bounds. 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app and brought to you by the Ram Trucks, Jeep Grand Cherokees, and Jeep Wranglers at Mac Hike in Flowwood. MacHikeFlowwood.com. MacHikeFlowwood.com for your next vehicle. They've got a great selection and loaded up with inventory, by the way. The show is also presented by Corner Market, the official grocery store of the Out of Bounds show with over 20 locations. Load up your fridge and refrigerator with all the premium meats and fresh produce and craft beer from Corner Market grocery stores in the state of Mississippi. We want to welcome in the spreadsheet extraordinaire. He is Dave Bartoo. College Football Matrix. He joins us on the Corona Premier guest line. What's up, Wild Man? How are you?
Dude, Bo Jackson, Bo and Luke Duke, Bo Bounds. How's it going, brother Bo?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to hear from you again. And you've been a busy bee. What about all these hires in college football?
What a zoo. What an absolute zoo. I mean, it is. This is really the first time I've been behind the curtain. Actually, I think it's the first time anybody's been behind the curtain as a search firm for a head coach, right? I mean, nobody's ever. I mean, we know about search firms helping out athletic directors for a head coach, but head coach always makes the hires until this year. And to basically play GM for an entire staff was, dude, it was amazing. I mean, when you got your number one guy on, imagine a head coach. Imagine like Mike Leach going, okay, Bo, go get my guys, all 10 of them. And you're looking at the number one guy on the board for a position, and you make a call, and you make another call, and you finally get his number, and you call him, and you're like, he's going to say no, and he says, oh, I'm totally interested. It is a rush, absolute, unbelievable rush trying to recruit these guys. I haven't had more fun in college football than I mean, it's been a long time since I've been this jacked up about doing stuff for college football.
That's pretty cool, man. Actually, that's really cool. It will be interesting to see how many adopt this approach and strategy over the next 3, 4, 5 years, because it's remarkable that coaches don't know how to hire their staff and don't really know, they don't really have an idea. They just go and hire their friends. But all right, let's start with, do you want to start with LSU as far as coordinators and what? So Brian Kelly, for our listeners, you recognize and respect what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame. I think that's a tougher job than people think. But you're not super excited about what he just did as far as his OC-DC pairing. So, Bartoo, what do you think?
Yeah, well, let's maybe reset how we got here, right? How we rank these things, okay? Just for the listeners. I know I've been on the show, a couple hundred times now?
Yeah.
But over the last 4 or 5 years, we have been accumulating coaching data. And our database has over 6,000 coaches in it right now, all graded. Okay. And we grade by performance, and we have separate grades for recruiting. And so when I talk about the grades, like, we're about to with LSU, this is looking at all coaches that have coached since 2009. So this is looking at, 6,000 different guys. So when we look at LSU, and they finally got their staff done on the 18th of January. Right now, we, in terms of completed Power 5 staffs, we have LSU graded new staff. So we have LSU graded as third. But this offensive and defensive coordinator pairing is below their total coach average. So this, we see it as a very weak pairing for the LSU brand. The money that they have, the guys they could have targeted, we feel that this was under their level, and was a bit surprised in terms of the guys that he went after, because recently he's been really aggressive with young, promising future stars. He went with Reese, which,
Yeah.
at Notre Dame. And jury's still out on that because he's starting to feel a little negative progression right now. He's only got a couple years. A lot of people are really high on Reese. I'd caution with that one. He brought in Marcus Freeman, obviously ran a good defense, has been a really good emotional leader because basically the whole roster went to the AD and said, we want him as head coach. And I'm not talking like part of the roster. I'm talking like 70 guys went to the athletic director and literally changed his mind as he was about to start the search. It wasn't going to be Marcus Freeman until all the guys went to the athletic director. There was that much pressure there behind the scenes. So now, at LSU, he went and got the offensive coordinator from Cincinnati, which, something, before he got to Cincinnati, and you look at Cincinnati's numbers, and they have been awesome. And I'm really concerned that Brian Kelly, with the hire of his new offensive coordinator from Cincinnati, I'm a little bit concerned about the Herbert syndrome. And the Herbert syndrome is when you got a really good quarterback that makes the offensive coordinator look really good when otherwise he hasn't been, and everybody thinks he's a good offensive coordinator. So I'm putting my asterisks on the LSU offensive coordinator in that don't get too excited over your skis because he may have had – and look, his numbers at Cincinnati were fantastic. I mean, fan-freaking-tastic the last couple of years. But don't get too far over your skis on it because it may all have been Desmond Ritter or Ryder or whatever you ever pronounce his name.
Right.
And then on the defensive coordinator side with House, it's just average. Meh. It's like it was just, okay, we're going to have a big bag of average defensive coordinators, and let's pull a name out of the bag and see how it goes. It wasn't really what I expected Brian Kelly to be aggressively in hiring an offensive and defensive coordinator at LSU. But the rest of the guys on the staff, they all grade out better than the offensive and defensive coordinator. But if I had a choice, I'd go the other way around and get me a really good OCDC and fill in the rest of the staff rather than the other way around because, it's kind of the same thing at Arkansas State right now. I got a great support staff, terrible OCDC.
Okay. So LSU you don't like. Right now you would give that OCDC pairing what grade?
We'd give it a B- grade right now.
Okay.
Considering the brand, the money, the guys targeted, we just feel it's below where they could have been. It still has the potential to be solid, especially if the offensive coordinator puts up numbers at LSU like he did at Cincinnati. Okay, I'm totally wrong. Okay, right. Totally whiffed. All right, those numbers those would be fantastic, just crushing killer numbers. But I'm just cautioning against it right now. I think it's a little bit of a risk.
Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds show and the Bucked Up Energy Drinks guest line. Okay, what about? Let's go to Ole Miss. Lane Train promote. All right, he loses Durkin to A&M and promotes Chris Partridge, who's never been a defensive coordinator, to DC. Your thoughts?
Right. So can we really grade it? Right? I mean, is it fair to – I really don't like when people start throwing grades at guys that have never called a play. In our system, we just call those 50%ers. We just give them a C grade. They're put right in the middle, and we just see which way they go because we're not going to know if this is going to be good or bad for the next 3 years. Even if he has a rock star year, it doesn't mean he won't regress. Even if he has a poor year, it doesn't mean he can't improve. Now, in terms of the process, this is 100% on Lane, right? I mean, there's no data on the guy. And it's not just Lane, it's anybody who hires somebody with zero data on that position. This is all Lane saying this is the best guy available for this situation. We can't go out and hire a better guy. I'm going with this guy because emotionally, ability-wise, he can get it done. So if this works out great, all the credit to Lane. If it works out bad, all the credit to Lane. But from a grade standpoint, I really wouldn't grade it. I would just say, let's see how this plays out and try not to be too emotional about it. But then since we're talking SEC, he went to A&M, right? Durkin went to A&M. That's a pretty big downgrade from Elko to Durkin.
Okay.
With the amount of money that A&M threw at recruits to get a number one class that everybody's been talking about, you'd think they'd spend a little bit more money to get a higher grade defensive coordinator, and they were there, okay? I can tell you right now there were better guys available than Durkin that would have taken the same money to go to A&M. So I think the hire of Durkin, while solid, is weak for the brand and a big downgrade from Elko, who is, in my opinion, one of the top defensive coordinators, the last 10 years.
All right, yeah, because I don't know this, you may, but I'm just throwing out a guy. Derek Mason just left Auburn to go to Oklahoma State. Okay, Auburn's a better program. Oklahoma State's a good program. But, man, you kind of ask that question. Well, if Mason was willing to look around, that would have been a much better hire for Jimbo Fisher than Durkin, right?
You would think, right? Now, with Mason, the concern is the kind of defense he runs. Okay, a lot of the big-time head coaches really want that four-man front. That's what they see wins national titles. That's what they see gets the big boy recruits. Mason doesn't necessarily do that. It's just his is more of a hybrid. So that scares off some guys in talking to him. But you look at Mason's history, his career, his numbers, top 5 defensive coordinator in the country. I think Oklahoma State upgraded. Oklahoma State upgraded their defensive coordinator position. I know Jim had a top 10 defense this year, but see how long it took him to get there? His progression is painstakingly slow. Derek Mason's had a better career. He's had higher numbers before. His lows are better than Jim's lows. So I think Oklahoma State upgrade. If A&M had grabbed Derek Mason, I'd have loved it. You saw what he did to Auburn. That was 85th in scoring efficiency 2 years ago. This year it was 21st.
He did a great job, man.
And then he walks away. Oh my gosh! Wouldn't you love to be inside the buildings at Auburn? That place must be a 5-alarm fire right now. Holy moly! I would love to be a fly on a wall there. But I agree with you. A&M, like I said, the options and Mason going to Oklahoma State. Now the big reason I think he went to Oklahoma State is he was a head coach. He wants to be a head coach, and he thinks that's the easiest path. He was thinking, look, I'm not getting there at Auburn. He just saw 4 defensive coordinators get hired all over the country, and I guarantee you he's going, that should have been me. I can do that. I'm a better defensive coordinator than some of those guys, right? And he goes, I'm buried in Auburn. I got to get out of here. I'm going to go to Oklahoma State. They got a great defense. All I got to do is maintain it, and I'm going to be a head coach sooner rather than later at Oklahoma State. I don't really necessarily think that's the best choice. I'd rather start at a more talented program, but I think that's really the main reason, or one of them, for him going. Always keep in mind, you listeners, everybody, once they taste that head coach, they always want to be the head coach. Even like Will Muschamp, but guarantee you, he is towing the line with the hope of becoming a head coach again, even though we're all going, dude, nobody's going to hire you. He believes he should be hired, and he wants that rush. It's the same thing with unit coaches. You take away the headset, they do everything they can to be one of those 10 guys with a headset. It's just the way it works.
Dave Bartoo talking coaching hires on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Dallas Body Shop. So you mentioned Auburn. What kind of dumpster fire is this? So Mike Bobo is now an analyst for Kirby Smart at Georgia after they couldn't get it going. And then they hire Austin Davis from the Seattle Seahawks, I guess. He played here at Southern Miss, was a great player. He stayed for about
Right, but
5 minutes, and then he's gone, Bartoo. What do you make of that?
I don't know. That's why I'm calling it. I can't believe it. I mean, I mean, think about this, man. I mean, when is the last time? And this may be nerd research central for everybody listening. I can't even think of the situation where a offensive and a defensive coordinator not just got fired, okay, voluntarily resigned within a month of each other. Voluntarily resigned, meaning they gave their contract back. They didn't collect a check. They resigned, and not just from South Alabama or Florida A&M or anything like that. They resigned from Auburn. Multi-million-dollar contracts
That's
that
right.
they pushed across the table within a month and said, I don't like it here. It's got to be unprecedented, which means goodness gracious knows what's going on inside. But you've always told me that Auburn is, in the SEC speak, is one of the biggest booster turmoil programs in the country to begin with.
Yes.
And that was before the last 60 days. I mean, like I said, wouldn't it be fun if we had an out-of-bounds show microphone inside that building right now?
Oh, my God. Now what's he going to do? And he promoted from within to replace Derek Mason.
Right. He took his buddy, right? There's a buddy hire. He brought his defensive
I
coordinator.
love when you talk about buddy hires. I just love it.
Right. Oh, dude, the best buddy available, not best available.
I saw you tweeting about that, and I think I literally fell out of my chair yesterday, the day before. You threw that out there. Not best buddy available, not best coach available.
Well, you gotta understand sometimes though. Okay, I'll tell you a story about my coaching search. Okay, and I think this is kind of cool. Because I've never heard anybody talk about it this way, and I was able to experience. So I think it's important. So right now, National Signing Day is December, right? And then you have this other rush to pick up all the guys in the portal between December and today. And so when you're a new hire, so when you come in December, you're behind the eight ball, right? I mean, you got 10 guys to hire, you have the staff to build, and you need to recruit. Okay, you need to recruit your butt off because chances are the guy you replaced hadn't been recruiting the last 30, 60, 90 days. All right, so if you're a new head coach facing a situation where you need to go recruit and you need to hire and interview 10 guys, you got to find 10 guys. What are you most likely to do, Bo? You're going to go with your buddies that you can pick up one phone call and go, get down here, Bo, get down here quick.
Right. Get on the road. Because as you've discussed, there's so much panic around December 1 when you get new head coaches in or you lose a coach and you're a sitting head coach. You're like, oh, my God, I gotta get somebody down in the South Alabama, Florida Panhandle right now, right? Because we've already been recruiting guys down there, right?
Right. And who do I know that does that? Boom, pick up the phone.
Exactly.
Blake, get down here.
Yeah.
Bo, get down here. Dave, get down here. Okay. And what happens is you build a quick staff, and then it sucks. But you got to recruit quickly, okay? So my job, when I got to do all of this, the head coach got to spend 95% of his time recruiting because the entire time he was recruiting, I was selecting the guys. I was making the phone calls. I was setting up the interviews. I was recruiting the guys. So rather than spending half of his December interview on 100 interviews trying to find the guys and settle for a average or substandard staff, I was basically the eyes and ears of the coaching search for the head coach. He was working twice as hard doing the same amount of work. Mm-hmm. And so he was able to get recruiting caught up while I was able to build the entire staff. He did 27 interviews and completed the staff, and it's going to be the highest graded staff in the G5 this offseason. So
that's cool.
reasons.
And you know what?
Right.
That's smart. That's efficient. That's,
Right.
eh, eh,
Exactly. It is smart. It is efficient. But I'm trying to let the listeners know that when you see these guys trying to slam these staffs together in December, keep in mind they don't know everybody. They don't have time to track down everybody. I mean, it takes me days sometimes to find a phone number. I mean, heck, one of the guys I wanted to get a hold of for one of my clients just to see if he was interested, right? Because some guys just go, look, I got to make that phone call. He's available. I got to make the phone call and get a no. Do you know how long it took me to get Dan Mullen's correct phone number? I mean, I had guys give me a number, and it wasn't even the right one. It took me 3 phone numbers to actually get the right the right hotline to Dan to get a no. But imagine if you're a head coach trying to find him, you're like, hey, I want to get a hold of him, but I can't.
right.
I don't have time, and then you forget about it.
Well, and then
you settle.
you're calling a 17-year-old every 2 seconds. I mean, and yeah, it's a
Oh yeah, yeah.
and you're on a
I'm
plane
talking
and you're in a car and you're in a high school and good, yeah. All right, Florida.
Oh,
do you want to talk about
nuts.
how much time? Ooh, we only got about a minute and a half. Can you do a minute and a half, 2
Okay,
minutes
Gators.
on on Billy Gonzalez's staff? Because it sounds like you're not Billy Gonzalez on what the hell am I trying? Huh? Billy Napier. God bless
I know
Billy.
which way
Billy
you were
Gonzalez
going.
is definitely not a Power 5 head coach. All right, let's back up real quick. Billy
This segment
Napier.
of the show brought to you by Four Roses Bourbon.
God, I haven't even had anything to drink yet, but I may just go ahead and do that. Hey, about Napier's staff.
Number one graded staff, and it's going to be that way. It's going to be that way. We got him at 74.5. It's an absolute monster staff, starting with Napier. I mean, Napier's grade is 85.2. He was absolutely the best guy on the board for the Gators at the time of the hire. There was nobody better, and the staff that he has put together is the number one graded staff in the Power 5 this year. It is beautiful. Even the analysts, he pulled in a rock star special teams coach as a bloody analyst. He built it well, perfect. The 2 offensive line coaches, I'm not so sure about that one, but he has superstars everywhere. Weakest position, probably linebacker coach. But overall, if I'm Scott Strickland, there is no way he could be happier. It's almost impossible because this is a great top 10 staff in the country right now.
Wow, top 10 staff in the country in Gainesville, Florida. That's Dave Bartoo. He's been great on Twitter lately. The Buddy Hires tweet was phenomenal. He's at CFB Matrix, and then from there you can see all the other stuff he's doing. Bartoo, be good, buddy. See you, dude.
Thanks for having me on, buddy.
We appreciate it. Great interview with Bartoo on the Bucked Up Energy Drinks guest line. And the show is brought to you by Edwin Watts Golf Shop on County Line Road. How about this? Edwin Watts Golf Shop is doing a tailor-made driver fitting tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Edwin Watts Golf Shop on County